Growing up around here was tough with all this violence and gangbanging.
This is a pretty bad area. There's a lot of drugs, killings. This is where the blood boils.
It was nuts being out here.
Here's the thing. The United States has a homicide rate that is about 7 times higher than other wealthy nations.
Which has a lot of Americans asking, is violent crime just inevitable? Today, we'll talk to 3 changemakers working to get to the root of the problem.
After the murder of George Floyd, communities' trust in police went down dramatically. This is where we need to put the work in.
We are saddling young people with a permanent criminal record and making it almost impossible to have a future. So we're creating a unique model that's transforming the criminal justice system.
When people don't know what works, they assume that nothing does. It's Blue Lives Matter versus Black Lives Matter. But here's the thing. If you follow the facts and data, it doesn't have to be this way.
We're here to find out, is it actually possible to reduce violence for good?
This is Stand Together Presents, stories, ideas, and advice from changemakers tackling our biggest challenges.
All right, everybody settle.
Let's first meet Thomas Abt, a crime researcher who has found a common thread that could help cities reverse the upswing in community violence.
Violent crime is a complicated but not intractable problem. Community violence is sticky, meaning that it sticks together or clusters among a surprisingly small number of people and places.
Data shows that in most cities, less than 1% of the population is responsible for 75% of homicides.
Take Boston, for example. 5% of city streets account for 75% of the city's shootings. It's a specific housing project. It's a specific liquor store. It's a specific nightclub on a specific night. And we're seeing this dynamic in every city. So, to solve a sticky problem, you need a sticky solution, or a number of sticky solutions. Science tells us when police collaborate with communities and focus on specific high-risk individuals, they can have a positive presence and control crime.
So what does this look like in practice? Let's first visit Dallas, Texas, where the chief of police has brought in some unlikely partners to reduce violence in the city.
When I started here in the city of Dallas, there was no question that one of the main priorities was to reduce violent crime. Crime was going this way, and we needed it to start going this way. We're not going to arrest our way into a safer Dallas, because what happens is officers go to their corner, the community goes to their corner, and then there's no one in the middle keeping our community safe. We can't do this on our own.
So he did something bold. He reached out to a former leader of the Bloods in Dallas to help bridge the divide between police and the communities at most risk of violence.
If you really want to solve violence in community, we got to bring everyone to the table and build trust between law enforcement and community.
Antong was arrested early in life and served 7 years in prison. But when he got out, he started an organization to help end gang violence.
This slowly peeling back those walls, and it's allowing the community to see law enforcement as human beings, but interesting, it is allowing law enforcement to see those people in community as human beings.
Through prison visits, town halls, and community events, Chief Garcia and Antong are bridging the divide between law enforcement and the communities most impacted by violent crime.
It's these type of partnerships that will move the needle to make Dallas one of the safest large cities in this country.
As a result of this partnership, you're seeing increased presence of law enforcement where they're not just showing up in a 911 crisis moment.
Recently, violent crime has dropped over 30% in Dallas, proving how big of an impact police and communities can have when they work together to target the individuals in most need of support. But today, too many young people are already caught up in an endless cycle of violence and crime. Get this, after just one conviction, juveniles are 3 times more likely to reoffend. But this free legal firm in Chicago thinks there's a way to break the cycle before it starts.
What's broken with the criminal justice system and how it relates to youth, it's not equipped to see youth as youth. It is laws and punishments. That's it. The Lawndale Christian Legal Center provides holistic community-based defense for young people under 25 in the criminal justice system.
Cliff and his team are utilizing an approach called restorative justice, which is focused on creating an understanding between victims and offenders.
What happens in a restorative justice healing circle is it creates a space for everybody to be vulnerable, open, to experience healing, forgiveness, accountability.
That's what happened to Ed and Guillermo. After high school, Ed got involved in a gang. After assaulting and mugging Guillermo, they met in a restorative justice healing circle.
The first thing that I remember saying to Guillermo was, "I'm sorry." And when I said I'm sorry, this man saw grace and mercy at me, and his next response was, "Are you okay?" And I put my head down and I just busted in tears.
Real transformation takes place in a healing circle because you have a greater understanding of what happened and a greater human connection to the people impacted by it. And through that, both the victim is restored and healed, the defendant takes a more meaningful personal level of accountability, and the community comes together to support that process.
Cliff's law firm helps over 300 juveniles and young adults each year. 89% of them have not returned to crime. The impacts of violence are widespread and devastating. But these changemakers show that when both law enforcement and community programs target those most impacted by violence, we can make our communities safer.
It's important to understand that there's no one-size-fits-all strategy, but there is a set of strategies that, when done right, can show real results.
The goal isn't to arrest our way out of this. The goal is to have less victims. We want to reduce violent crime in our neighborhoods.
We believe that every human being has value, and that although young people make mistakes, particularly in their formative years, that they still have hope in a future. When we teach young people empowerment, they start to see possibilities beyond what may be right in front of them, and their vision for their life expands.
When you look at the reduction of violent crime here in the city of Dallas the last 2 years, I took a deep breath. But that's about it, because there's no rest. We have to continue to rise and grind.
Stand Together partners with changemakers tackling our biggest challenges. To see more stories, follow our channels. And to learn more about how you can partner with us, go to standtogether.org.